Okay, let's start. We're starting. It's a big simcha. We're starting a new Perek. We're starting Perek Kirah, and it's exciting because we spent a lot of time with Madlikin. Madlikin. Primarily, we covered three big sugyas: Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, and then we covered Jewish calendar, sunrise, sunset, Bein Hashmoshes. So even though the Gemara really was talking about Bein Hashmoshes, we took a few copies of Gemara Yuma, Gemara Psachim, and while we were at it, we went through not just Bein Hashmoshes, we went through what's Chatzai Salayla and what's Alois Shacher and what's Mishayakir, and everything we went through. So Baruch Hashem, and we spent a little extra time in it, but it was Kedai. Now it's time to move on to the next Perek, which is Perek Kirah. So basically, Perek Kirah, I mean, thank you so much. The Perek Kirah is, like the name says, it's about, the pots and the pans. And what we do is Shabbos in the kitchen. It's about the blech. It's about the oven. And it's about a little bit about Bishul B'Shabbos too. In Shulchan Aruch, it takes up a nice few simonim in Shulchan Aruch. Siman Reish Nun Gimel, Reish Nun Daled, Reish Nun Hey, Reish Nun Vav, Nun Zayin, Nun Ches, Nun Tes. And also the sugya of Bishul B'Shabbos is Shin Yud Ches. Okay, so that's a very gishmaka sugya. It's funny that, like in many things, we start off with like a little detail. Bishul B'Shabbos is one of the Lamatas Malachas. You would expect that Perek, that the third Perek Shabbos is talking about, would start with, Malacha Bishul, oil. We're starting about a Gzeida de Rabbanan. Rabbanan made a Gzeida about the oven that was scared that a person is hanging out in the kitchen too much in Shabbos. And in the old days, how did you get the things cooking? You would take a shovel, and you would shake around the gecholim to intensify the coals, to intensify the fire. And the chachamim were scared that the person is going to make a mistake, or he's going to take the shovel and start pushing around the gecholim on Shabbos. So machata begecholim is a gzeira. Because of that, Chazal said, you could do this, you could do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to put a blech, even when you put a blech, you could do this, you could do that, you can't do this, can't do that. It's similar to the last Perek also. The Mishnah starts, B'mem adlikin. First of all, the whole idea of Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah is on the Rabbanon. And second of all, once I'm already lighting the candle, it's a little detail, what wick I'm allowed to use. You know what I mean?
Which oil?
Which oil? But that's the way Chazal start. And also here, the Perek, which is talking primarily about the kitchen, doesn't start with, Bishul, Shabbos, what's the Isser, Oish Savaru, Eish, B'chol Mashveseichem, Yem Shabbos, there's a posik and what. No, it starts off right away with a Gzeida de Rabbanon. Zog the Mishnah, Kirah, Shesikul, Bekasha, Begvova. Kirah is a type of oven. We'll talk about later, the difference of a Kirah and a Kupach and a Tanur, but right now it's not Negeh because when we get to the next Mishnah, it'll be Negeh. Shesikul, Bekasha, Begvova. If they heat up the Kirah through Kasha Begvova, which is Kasha Begvova is nothing. It's flax, chaff. It's what you give the cows to eat. Hay. This is not heavy duty stuff. These things burn for a little bit, like tissue paper, and then they burn out. So nois nelav tafshel. We're not so choshish about the person stoking the fire, because it's like tissue paper anyway. The gefes of eitzim, but if he heated up the kirah with gefes veitzim. A gefes and eitzim are serious stuff. Wood, gefes is, like Rashi says, look in the Rashi, that the soila shell shumshimin tloitzi shumnat, that they take the sesame seeds and they press it, and then they have from it tahina and or oil, sesame oil, And then what's left is big chunks of the seeds, and they sell it like firewood, and it burns really good like firewood. This is a heavy duty stuff. It's good like firewood. So get, yeah, it smells good. It burns good. So lo yitin over here we're really choishish that you shouldn't put the food there till you take out the coals. Oh, you should put a blech on it. You should put a layer of aphid on it. That hot water fine, but chol, forget about it. So can be hot water and chol. You're not allowed to return it. Once you take the pot off, forget it. Can't return it. You can return it. That's when the Rashi very fast. Kiddush asuya kein kedera v'naisen kedera latoicha kash snavas ashiboilim gavava anikvev minasoda gefes is pseil shel shumshim lahoitze shumnan. So if it's gefes ve'et, some heavy duty stuff, have to be at shiyigud if I can call him from the moisav hevel. Why? Because this is moisav hevel. The time of prishna liil bepedek liil and taf lamadalad shem yechata begecholim. Tosa here argues that Rashi says, "What do you have to make a two-step thing?" The bottom line is Shem Yechata B'Gecholim. That the whole Zaydim of Akira is because Chazal was scared the guy's going to hang out too much in the kitchen and he'll hang around too much in the pots, and he'll forget it's Shabbos, and then he'll take the shovel and he'll try to stoke the fire. Now that he took out the coals or he covered them, so number one, he'll remember Shabbos. Number two, he did something to make it cold. So he's not going to now try to make it hot because he did something dafka to make it cold. Hot water doesn't really need too much cooking. So Chazal were not so good as Shem Yechata. Food, chol, the nechli b'shula. Over there, a person that's happy that you cook, and there's a more atzad that'll be machata inami. Skayma machshavta. Maybe the whole issue over here is different. The difference of hot water and cholent is that's mechazik mevash. It looks like he's cooking a Shabbos. And hot water, why doesn't it look like he's cooking a Shabbos? This could be in those days, like today, that a lot of people have a machine that has 24/7 hot water, or in those days, I had some of ours. So when you see, you walk into a Jewish kitchen and you see hot water boiling in a pot, that doesn't mean anything because Monday afternoon, when you come there, you also see hot water boiling in a pot. It's always boiling just in case someone needs a cup of tea. But you see food is Mexican mavashal, so therefore Chazal made exeda. Zog the Gemara. Huh? Well, let's work out the Gemara what Bisham is talking about, and then you know what I mean. Zebailahu, the Bnei Yeshiva asked a shayla. Baruch Tanel Macham Shach Medori. Hello Yitin. When the Mishnah said Lo Yitin, what are we talking about? We're talking about Friday. We're talking about Shabbos. Lo Yitin is Lo Yachzib, that he's not allowed to return it on Shabbos. Avalishus, but if he wants to be shoya, if he wants to put it there Friday before sunset and leave it there, Mashin Afra Bishayna Godav Cotton, he can leave it there. Even if it's not Godav Cotton, there's no blech, it's not a problem. Bani, and who is talking in our Mishnah? Hananya, this is Hananya, the Tanya will learn in a Braisa. Hananya, Oimer, Hananya is Kol Shuka Michael Ben Soy, anything which is cooked to Michael Ben Soy, Mutal Ashoy Sal Gavakida. You're allowed to leave it on the kid, Afra Bishayna Godav Cotton, even though there's no blech. What's a Michael Ben Soy? Machlok is a Rishonim if it's 50% cooked or 30% cooked. But what happened? There was a Ganav, a Mavusta Ganav, Ben Soy, and he didn't like to wait until he invented the stir-fried food. Sushi, that's yeah.
Michael.
Hibachi. Oh, yeah. So he
halfway cooked.
It sounds like yeah, and he didn't like to wait till the food was cooked, so he cooked it only a certain amount, and then he would eat it. So what? So the Chazal understood that this guy wasn't stam kashaya that ate raw meat. He was given stam from the best of the mention. He liked to eat good food too. Elamai atazai. rear. He liked to eat food, and he didn't want to wait till it's cooked. But he versteht that this is really good food. That when you cook it the full way, to him it wasn't desirable. So this is a barometer of the food that's already cooked. In Ben Dusoy is gepasken that this food is good to bring to the table, so Chazal will consider it cooked. So Hananya said anything that's cooked already, and you put it there Friday, you don't need a belech. What do you need a belech for? Chazal, we're not scared about that. Chazal, we're only scared if you're going to, and it's like porkin. In Yiddish, a beautiful word, porkin. You're fussing, and you're going to return the pot, and then you're going to realize that the fire is getting a little schwach. You're going to take the shovel and start moving around the coals. But if it's lahashas, nah. But even in lahashas gufa, Hananya said, if it's takanakut k'meichel ben desoi, so it's legally raw. Still, b'choishes the person as the food is raw, and he'll forget, and he'll start moving around the coals. But once it's legally cooked, so why should he? It's sitting there. He's not a pocket. He's not there.
Just keep it warm.
So this is So this is the shit of Hananya.
If you were in the cut, what does that mean?
There's no blech on it. It's not covered with sand. So again, Tanya will not Nabraisa Hananya said, Coach Kamaicha ben the soy, anything which is already cooked, Kamaicha ben the soy, Mutala Shoyes al Gabakiri, you're allowed to leave it on the Kirah, even if it's not that you took out the coals or you didn't cover the coals. Gitzi didn't put a blech. That's one way of learning a Mishnah. The other way of learning a Mishnah is that the Mishnah goes like the Rabbanon that go against Hananya. Lahashas not. There are missions talking about even lahashas. If you have a blech, where you took out the coals, then you're good. You're allowed to be sure you're allowed to leave the food on the oven. But if you didn't put a blech, you're not allowed to leave the food there. Kolshkein, you wouldn't be allowed to lahachze. It's two ways of learning our Mishnah. So Shaila is our Mishnah. It sounds like a stam Mishnah. So are we gonna read the Mishnah like Chananya or like the Chacham? Tashma, at the Tani we learned today. We learned two cases in our Mishnah, two machlokes in the Bisham Vesel. The first machlokes of Bisham Vesel goes like this: Bisham and Chamem like tafshel, hot water but not chalk. Solamem Chamem bit tafshel, water and chalk all good. Bisham they told him you're allowed to take it off, you're not allowed to return it. You're allowed to return it. If you're going to say that it's like Chachamim, that the whole Mishnah is Lahashasnan, like the Chachamim that go against Chananya and they're Machmir. So the Mishnah goes like this. Kiddush is called the Kashem Gavava. If you put Kashem Gavava, the Shvacha little things, which is like tissue paper, Mashinala, Chazal said you're allowed to put the food there and leave it there, because I'm not scared you're going to move it around. It's anywhere like tissue paper. Mashinala, tafshil, you're allowed to leave the tafshil on it. The gefetz beitzim, but with the serious stuff, if you chop the wood or you have the globs of sesame seeds, then lo yasha, you're not allowed to leave the food. Actually, you get a fashet neif until you take out the coal and you put a blech. So the Mishnah is lakumra, like the Rabban of Chananya, and then the Mishnah continues. My mashin. What are you allowed to leave from Friday on the blech? Only hot water you're allowed to leave. It's a tafshel. But now the Mishnah says, just like we have a machlokes, b'shama v'tzel, chuman and akula, lagavi leaving it from Friday. Also lagavi chazor, b'shama emrim netel machzin. B'shama says you can never do chazor. Salam af machzin you could do chazor. The trick, according to the Rabbanon, is that we have for Bishama B'Hillel there's two machlokes. So you could pronounce that the first machlokes is about Shehir and the second is Chazara. We'll read a second and a here. The problem according to Chananya is Shehir, everyone agrees is Mutar. So everything in the Mishnah has to be by Chazara.
You not mavash or anything?
Yeah, he says Shehir, I'm mavash, you're not doing it. My pocket tzachnish, don't worry. So though everything is about Chazara. He's putting it back. He's already putting it back. We're scared he's going to start moving around the coals. And pocket tzachzufel in the kirch. So now we have to find Bishama Vasila to argue about two things. but there's no two things to argue about. The problem is, if you learn like Hananya, you didn't leave two things to argue about. There's nothing to argue about. Let's read inside the Gemara. Li Amar. If you're going to say like Hananya, and Taish the Mishnah, that the whole Mishnah is lahach l'tanan, that the whole Mishnah is about Chazara, but Shehiyah is l'kol adayis muter, and you never need a blech for Shehiyah, as long as it's good k'maychel ben dersoyi, you never have a problem. If you're going to tell me it's about lahach, so hachik tanit. So this is the way we're going to read. Yiddish is called the gashub machzirin alel, because tissue paper is not a problem. Machzirin alel tafshel. Gefes veitzin lo yachzir et shigre if it should nefer. But if it's gefes veitzin, you have to put a blech. My machzirin, what are you allowed to put back? B'sham emrim kama v'lo tafshel. You're only allowed to put back hot water. No, kama v'lo tafshel. You're allowed to return both. Now there's a second machlokes. B'sham emrim neutlin avlo machzirin. You're not allowed to return.
No matter what. Not
So
tafshel, not-
obviously he's talking about
both.
tafshel, because kamen, you told me a second ago,
You're allowed
kamen you're allowed to. So medaf ein machen direi, medaf ein direi, and say that when Bishame said noitin lavalei machzirin, he couldn't be he talking about tafshel. So really, essentially, what the Gemara is saying is Bishame said his chumrah twice. First, Bishame said, if you want to be machzir, you could be machzir chan and tafshel. And then he said, a second time he said exactly the same thing. Loy machzirin, why do you not allow machzir the tafshel? So you told me twice your same chumrah. Asul amali, why are you telling me the same din two times? Again, the Gemara is like make a whole omud out of really what should have been in a way a sentence, but still it takes to give out. The Gemara is saying if you learn like the Chacham of Chananya, when that there is an issue, there's a problem Chazal have with Shehiyah and a problem with Chazara. So we have two machlokes in Bisham and Biselo. One is about Shehiyah, one is about Chazara. So it's fine. Everyone's happy. But if you learn like Hananya, Shehiyah, never a problem Shehiyah. And Taka, most of the Shana learn halachas like Hananya. The Shehiyah is never a problem. You really don't need a blech if you're never planning to put anything back and it's already cooked kamach, so you don't really need a blech. Don't worry
You're
about
not worried that you're gonna do
it.
the
Because we're not worried about the guy being now giving machata b'kafal. Don't worry. So now every discussion has to be around Chazar. So Bishami said two chumras. So tell me what's the difference from the first to the second chumrah. He said chamen v'loy tafshel. You're talking about Chazar, right? Because Shiur said there's never a problem. So talking about Chazar. If you want to be machzir, hot water, not a problem. Shalom is a problem. Then he said loy machzirim. What loy machzirim? Shalom. You told me this already once. Why you tell me twice the same din? Mashenkin, according to Rabban Chananya, they start off with a different issue. Shehi is a problem. Chazor is a problem. She is not as bad as Chazor, but still, she is a problem. Chazor is a problem. So Bishama, the first machloik is Bisham Vesil was a chumrah about Shehiyah, and the second was about Chazor. Chaya, inachta mokem. He left place for two machloikis. One machloik is Bisham Vesil is about Shehiyah, one about Chazor. B'shalom al Yisrael, the Mishnah could go good. The Gemara is going to answer Achsuri Mechserim. The Gemara is going to make a moededike dreidel in the Mishnah to make Chananya work in the Mishnah. But we're going to look Tosis inside in a second. But Tosis says, come on, give me a break. You're going to make such a dreidel in the Mishnah to make the Mishnah sound like Chananya. You could see clearly that the Mishnah doesn't read well like Chananya. So call it a day. The Mishnah is Chachamim. So the Tosis is going to answer that because Tosis holds like the Rishonim that the halacha is really like Chananya. Answer Shulchan Aruch is not so clear with the halacha, but the minhag olam is taka paskin lekula. Why? Because we can see later in the Gemara that the Gemara says a few stories. One is that the Gemara says a story that it was Reb Nachman. The Gemara says that Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchok used to be makel, and the Gemara says a mora de uvda have, and the Rashi says a mora de thing. What's mora de uvda? Mora de uvda means megdaktek b'maisa. I saw the opinion korf eat this chicken. The opinion korf eat it. It must be kosher. Can't be. The opinion korf was the favorite mashpiyas of the 70.
You never ate.
Maybe it wasn't Albert Einstein. It wasn't Rabbi Khan. but he was Amura de Uvda. Everyone loved the Pinya Korb. Everyone loved him. V'oraya.
He was a Shulchan the key.
No one even knew that his name was Reb. Pinya. Everyone called him Pinya, right?
He didn't like when you called him
Oh, so Pinya is like Reb Nachum Yitzchak. Mora de Uvda is given a Yid, which his whole thing was medactic b'maisa. I did a Shulchan Aruch again, was tired, and Taki spent a lot of times davening, but it was everything was of Kabbalah soil. So and then the Gemara says also Rabbi Yochanan held, and B'chlal Rabbi Yochanan has a lot of weight. Rabbi Yochanan has a lot of weight because the Rambam holds that the Talmud Yerushalmi was written by Rabbi Yochanan. The Talmud Yerushalmi was written by Rabbi Yochanan. The Rambam holds. The Rambam writes in the Hagdama, he writes that Rebbe HaKodesh had 11 very important Talmidim. Who are the 11 Talmidim? Achad Asar Kiblu Rabbeinu HaKodesh v'Amdu b'Medrasha. And who are they? And he goes through. Rabbeinu HaKodesh had Shimon, Gamliel, his sons, Reb Ephes, Reb Chananya, Reb Chia, Reb Yaneh, Reb Akaporu, Shmuel, Reb Yochanan, Reb Oshia. Ava b'she'elo achad Asar Kiblu Rabbeinu HaKodesh v'Amdu b'Medrasha. Reb Yochanan Kotan Hoya. Ach kach Hoya Talmud Reb Yaneh v'Kiblu Memenu Torah. It was later a Talmud of Reb Yaneh. And it was Makabel Torah from him. We find such things. The Alter Rebbe was a Talmud of Maggid of Mezritch. He was the youngest Talmud. Begashmi's youngest. When I say the Alter Rebbe was the youngest, it was Begashmi's youngest. The Alter Rebbe was born in year Kahos, Tov Kufhei, and the Maggid was nifted already in the year Yutas Kislev Tov Kuf Lamed Gimel. How old is the Alter Rebbe? He would be 33 years old if he was born in year Tov Kuf, but he was born in Kahos 5 years later. So what was he? 28 years old?
25.
No, 28, because I'm deducting. From 33, I'm deducting 5. So he was 28 years old. 28 years old, the Maggid took his hands up. Zalman Yutas Kislev was unser Yom HaGeula. And he went home a few times. He was there for a year, and they went home for a year. He came back.
26.
So could you imagine? The Alter Rebbe was Taka the youngest, and he was very young. He came to the Maggid. I think all on and off. He came to the Maggid. You have to look in which year he came. Chav Beis, Tavkuf Chav Beis. So he was 19 years old. He was already married. He was 19 years old. So after the Stalk of the Maggid, he was makabel upon himself the pre-audits of Menachem Mendel of Veradok as a Rebbe because he was from the older Talmidim. He was like a Pinchas and Shmelka. They were the older Talmidim. The Gashmis are older. Rabbi Yochanan also. He was younger. So he became later a Talmud to Rabbi Yanai. And Rav became a Talmud also for Rabbi Yanai. Rav, the difference of Yochanan and Rav really is, Rav, the Gemara says a lot of times, Tanu Polik. But Rav moved from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, and he brought a lot of the Torah from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. And Rav is probably considered the first generation of Amayroim, but really, the Gemara says Tanu Polik. So, and then he continued. I'm reading the Mishnah Torah, the Mesiris Torah Shabbat, the Agdama from the Rambam. And Taket, then the Rambam continues. Rav Chi Besifro, Besifrei, Reb Chi Yasiv Tesefte, Reb Oshia, Chibru Braises, and everything is Rav Chi Besifro, Besifrei, Lo Yedi Ikri Mishnah. Reb Chi Chibru Tesefte, Lavari Inyone Mishnah. Reb Oshia Bakapor Chibru Braises, Lavari Divri Mishnah. Fortunately, talk about what's the mitzvah of Ikriya. But everything is around the Mishnah because they were Talmidim of Rabbeinu HaKodesh. And even though Rabbeinu HaKodesh decided to leave out certain Mishnahs, but they felt it was important in order to understand better the Mishnahs to make a chibur. So these three Talmidim made a chibur. Rabbi Yochanan, chibur Talmud the Yerushalmi, Be'eretz Yisrael, Achar Churban Abayis, but part of Misholosh Meis Shana. Rabbi Yochanan must have had a Arichas Yomim. It's not Rabbi Yochanan Mazakeh. Rabbi Yochanan Mazakeh is he was around by the Churban. This is a different Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan very shlokish. So the later in the Gemara is going to say that side Rabbi Yochanan gehalten Halach v'Chananya side Rav Nachman Yitzchak gehalten the Lochitz Chananyas, even though there's really a lot of Amoraim that held differently. So a lot of Rishonim hold that this is Kedai, Rav Yochanan, Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, that to tell us what the din is. That halach is really like Chananya. That's a tiny toises that we're going to learn in a second. That teaches a hashkafa thing, also mahalach in the Gemara. Sometimes we think that the Gemara ma'ach adredel. Yeah, that's what the Gemara is doing, because the Ravina Rabashi had a Kabbalah b'yoda that the halacha is like Chananya. So they had a choice. You could say the halacha is Chananya. The Mishnah says like Chananya. I'm sorry. Okay. They wanted to make a Stam Mishnah go like Chananya, and if the price is to fadrei the Mishnah a little bit, and to say a chesuri mechsera, we're willing to pay the price because we know that the halacha is like Chananya. So we don't paskin like Tam Yishalmi when some machlokes babni Yishalmi, but we is doch nicht machlokes. Okay, the Torah is saying, why did the Bavli spend overtime to make our Mishnah fadreit like Chananya? Just say, forget about it. On the Mishnah is Chachamim. They had an agenda. They knew that the halacha is like Chananya lekula, and shehiyah is not such a big problem. And if the food is cooked, so you don't really need a blech. And today you have a blech all the time. Okay, fine. So therefore, the Gemara had an agenda to fadrei the Mishnah that if we could, because like at the end of the day, so what are we going to lose? We know the halacha is a chanan. So Ravina Vashi said, so what? So you don't like our pshat in the Mishnah? No. But the halacha is anyway like chanan. So I like to say that this Mishnah, which is a stam Mishnah, is oshtimim beser, that you don't like my dreidel pshat in the Mishnah, and that the Mishnah should shtim with the halacha. That's better to me. That sits better with me than to say, okay, listen, the halacha is like Chananya, and the Mishnah, no, manaseh, the halacha is not like the Mishnah. It's a little of a shkof, and also it's a style. A lot of times in Gemara says chasura mechser. There's the words from the Chassam Sofer that we talk about a lot, Rav Derch and Emes. So me and you have a psakasha, and we said a derech pshat. So maybe it's that, but maybe what the Chassam Sofer meant a lot of times when we look at Gemara, we look at Tosfos, we look at Rashi. Sometimes it looks to us that the Gemara knock a derech shel doichik, but the answer is because they knew that that's the emes. The emes is that this is the halacha.
Transfers the Gemara learning, but the part goes like this. I don't know why. I was like,
the Gemara sometimes goes like this, but the Gemara has a reason for it. And even though the Gemara knows that they're being doichik, you discuss it. So that's what the style of the Gemara, and that's what's geschmack to look to understand it. The Gemara says, I'm going to tell you the loch is like Chananya. Mishnah is missing a lot of words. And this is the way really we should read the Mishnah. If I heated it up with kasha gov, it's like tissue paper. Don't worry, you're allowed to put a tafshel back. But if it's gefes veis, you need to have a blech. Oh, now come new words in the Mishnah that don't really exist. Avalisha is if you want to do shehiyah from Friday and leave it. Mashin, you're allowed to leave it. Even though there's no blach. And the Mishnah forgot to tell you it has to be that it has to be kamaychav in the soy. I mean, somebody doichkim here. My mashin, and what are you allowed to leave? B'shamei emrim chamin. You're only allowed to leave chamin v'lo tavshel not a jol. So chamin v'tavshel. Oh, then the Gemara, the Mishnah tzagelacha. B'hachazor the amrilach. This chazor in the beginning of the Mishnah that I told you that you could do a blech and do chazor. By the way, I just remembered to tell you. Lav divrei hakali. It's not everyone agrees to this. This is, by the way, so no, it's the funniest pshat, and the Gemara is willing to go with this. The Gemara is willing to go with this because that's what Tais is going to say in a second. So again, the chap here is the like Chananya. The Chananya said that shehiyah, that you don't need a blech. If you want to leave it there, no problem. As long as it's cooked, legally cooked, it's not a problem. The whole reason Chazal said you need a blech is for Chazorah. That's it. What's the two machlokes b'sham v'zelo? So Machsurim Exer, attack the first machlokes b'sham v'zelo is about Shihiyah. It's about Shihiyah. And if you want to do Shihiyah without a blech, Bishama said only hot water. But if you want to do Shihiyah with a blech, then you could have a chance. If you the emphasis is a little bit of a mile of learning like Hananya, then according to Hananya, Bishama used to eat cholent on Shabbos. They put a blech. So according to Hananya,
You don't have to use Chazor.
no, you know Chazor in the way.
Bishami.
Bishami said, "Oh, we agree. You're allowed to do Shihiyah, but just for water. But for cholent, you can have a blech. Because forget about it. You're not allowed to do for but at least according to Hananya, the Mishnah is like very fadreit, but at least Bishama can get some cholent of Shabbos. It's very important. You can sagen, Bishama is just cholent of Shabbos. Chas v'shom to sagen as azah. It's a kedai to sagen the Mishnah met azah doichik just to give Bishama cholent on Shabbos. That's our pshat. This pshat is because the dude's the halacha. Loyle bei malach, sagt Teisves, Loyle bei malach, lahachzit nan, chsuri mechsere. Sagt Teisves, mishum de kai malon, kichananya, kamoi shafarish, ve'ezes Hashem yizborich. I will later explain that from the Gemara later it's mashma, the halach is like chananya. Therefore, duchik, lo'uk mimasnisa kavazei, the Gemara was willing to make a duchik, to make the Mishnah like chananya. Even though the Gemara realized it's going through a doichik, it's going through hoops. But the Gemara was interested to do that. So to summarize everything we learned today, very simple. We paskin like Chananya. Chananya says that if you're not planning to return the pot to the fire, since it's only Shehiyah, you really don't need a blech. And as long as it's kut k'maichel menderzoy. But when do you need a blech? If you want to do chazor. Now, why do we have a blech even for Shia? Because not always things cook kamach ben soy. And amal yegikoch nijikoch. So if we're always going to have a blech, we're never going to have a problem. But according to Toisves, that's takaloch, and that's why the Gemara was willing to fadrei the Mishnah. Because according to Chananya Lechayra, what's the two machloikis and Bishama Bizel? Oh, because one was a Shia, one was Chazora, and there's so much extra words in the Mishnah which is not there. But because really the loch is like Chananya. So bottom line, the loch is like Chananya, that only need a blech for Chazara. But for Shehiyah, you don't really need a blech. But it got to be Kokamaychim on the side. What's Kokamaychim on the side? Forget about it. You need a blech. Okay. We're holding now. We're holding right now by Toshma, the Omer of Chelbay. We got good and the Mitzvah Shem.
Missing one?
Baruch Hashem.
No, we have 10.
We have 10? Oh, amazing.
Yeah, exactly 10.
Oh, very good.
No, but
For joining us. Baruch Hashem.
I just joined for a second.
Okay, very good.